Great, so I've been reliably informed people can hear me. Yeah, bunch of thumbs up. Okay, great. Yeah, nice to see so many faces. There's been a few little IT problems, which means maybe I won't get to show all the demos that I wanted to, but you can pop by the Lightdash booth later today to maybe check some of those out. But yeah, welcome. So I'm going to talk about what I see as the future of analytics engineering. Analytics engineering 2.0. I'll give it a catchier name in a minute. But first, yeah, I'm Ollie. I work at Lightdash as part of the analytics engineering advocate team. I also worked as a technical instructor for DBT Labs, helping onboard some of their big enterprise clients. I started off as a data analyst back in 2019, and I moved to analytics engineering after kind of being introduced to DBT and thinking it was awesome. Now I'm helping kind of build the tools that this kind of modern data stack is built on. Lightdash, for those of you who haven't heard of it, it's an open source semantic BI layer, and it's DBT native. It has an awesome developer experiences, which is how I ended up kind of working there. And it's also fully remote, which means I can live in Italy and ride my bike when I'm not talking about data. So yeah, I've interacted with a lot of organizations out there through Lightdash, through DBT, and I've got some opinions on the future of analytics engineering in this kind of AI world. So let's just first talk about the analytics engineer kind of origin story. DBT kicked off a number of years ago, and it's just become more and more popular. And it kind of lowered the bar for data people, for engineers, for analysts to implement best practices when building out their pipelines. There's this great blog post back from 2021, which describes analytics engineers as purple people. And the context for that is you can imagine your business heavy people as red people, maybe your technical people, your traditional kind of data engineer are blue people. Analytics engineers kind of sit in the middle, right? Where are these purple people? And we translate between the blue and the red, and that's really important for what we're going to talk about. We bridge the gap, right? We know some Git, we know what a star schema is, but we also know business context. We know how to speak to users. It's a really rare blend of skills, and it's a great place to be for this kind of, this AI future. So one thing I think a lot of people are probably asking themselves, and you should be asking yourselves, is AI going to replace me? Right? Are we already dinosaurs kind of destined for extinction in this analytics engineering landscape? I think the traditional data roles, for example, a data engineer, a lot of it's being dealt with kind of with Fivetran, Airbyte, DLT. AI is dealing with the more complex things. Analytics engineers are building pipelines. Analysts, they're getting maybe automated a little bit. Those insights are being generated by AI. Maybe we're not there yet, but how long before they're a bit more out of the loop? And analytics engineers are also at risk. If you're just building pipelines in DBT, AI is going to automate you out of your job, I would suspect. And to avoid extinction, it's time for a rebrand. So enter the analytics intelligence engineer. We've had artificial intelligence, we've had Apple intelligence. This is the latest kind of AI buzzword I'm going to introduce today. And really, analytics engineers, they're perfectly placed, right? As these purple people, these engineering and business users to build out this next generation of analytics intelligence. AI models are great. Right? I'm sure lots of people in here have had great results dealing with them, but the age-old kind of garbage in, garbage out, it still exists. Analytics intelligence engineers are going to provide the context to these AI tools and take ownership over their performance. So that's really important. These AI tools that we're going to see, you're owning them, and you want to go out there and take ownership of that and be responsible for it. So that's a bit of pretext. Here's what we're actually going to cover today in the talk. We're going to talk about semantic layers. So they are at the heart of this all. At Lightdash, we use the mighty YAML file to define that. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But then really we'll focus on a plan of how to deploy, measure, and improve AI performance. And you should have an understanding of how you can go away, take that plan, and level up your organization straight away with just a few quick tips. So first, we really need to understand what is a semantic layer. I suspect you'll go to some other talks that are going to go a lot more into depth about this, so I'll try and keep it relatively light. So a semantic layer maps data logic to business logic, right? It sits on top of your data warehouse, and it provides this consistent view of data across the organization. And that means anytime someone goes and asks, okay, what was my revenue last week? They get the same answer. They query the semantic layer, they don't write their own SQL. Analytics engineers traditionally look after this, right? So if you're an analytics engineer, you've definitely been thinking about semantic layers, if not creating one yourself. So these have been awesome. Up until a few years ago, they're great. They've been useful for providing self-serve for business users. You know, Lightdash has a semantic layer. Looker has theirs. Cube, DBT. There's plenty of semantic layers out there. And right here, I was going to show you what that looks like in Lightdash. But you'll have to come to the booth due to the little IT hiccup here. But these semantic layers have all of a sudden got immeasurably more valuable, right? What was something that you probably should have has turned into something that you really need for this next generation of analytics. They serve as the interface for your AI model. So I think probably a lot of people in this room have experimented with text to SQL, right? I write some text in and OpenAI or Claude or whatever spits out some SQL to you. And it kind of works, but it's not very consistent, right? It can't deal with complexities, and it struggles to do joins consistently. Instead, that AI should query your semantic layer just like a human would, right? And with all the context that comes around that and all the governance, et cetera. So we know we need a semantic layer. The question is, like, what does that look like in the background for the analytics engineer? At Lightdash, we decided to build our own semantic layer in the DBT YAML file. This turned out to be a great decision because DBT is like blowing up and it grows, and we can offer like this awesome developer experience. And that's important because when we come to the steps when we're talking about like improving AI performance, you really want this very quick like build, measure, learn cycle. So you need a great dev experience to be able to efficiently implement these cool new features. But it means in Lightdash, and again, I would love to show you this, but in one PR, you can go from having some source data, you can transform it, right? You can document it, you can test it, so all those great DBT things. Then you can define a semantic layer in your YAML file and create a Lightdash front end, right? All in one pull request, really fast, iterate quickly. And you know, up until a couple of years ago, that's kind of where the traditional analytics engineer stops, right? They've got the source data, they built the pipeline, they've got a nice semantic layer. Maybe you're out there building charts and dashboards, but really the bread and butter is in that modeling source data, version controlled, software engineering best practice, all that amazing DBT stuff that we've been using over the past few years. So how's that going to change? Enter this intelligence part of analytics engineering, right? What about this AI stuff? Your users are probably asking you about it. They're probably doing it behind your back, right? If you haven't given them access to these tools already. And wouldn't it be nice if you just took your DBT project and you just plugged it into an AI agent of your dreams and everything just works? And that's kind of what Lightdash does, but it needs a little bit of help from you, thankfully, so we can all keep our jobs. But really, your job in the new world is to own, as I mentioned, end-to-end performance of these AI models. The underlying data is really only half the battle. So, we'll start looking at the playbook. Just briefly before we get to step one, a couple of things to mention here which are really important. So, first we can break down success into two categories, right? We have the people side, and these are questions you should be asking yourself like, do the end users, do your business users understand how to use this cool product that you've made? Are they happy with the outputs? What kind of questions are they asking of your new kind of like AI agents? And then there's the technical side, right? Does the AI have the context it needs, right? Is it working with that? Is my semantic layer integrating well with my AI models, right? And an important one, are my AI agents giving the correct answers, right? Probably the toughest one. And these are really intertwined, right? The people and the tech, and it's why analytics engineers are the people who are going to own this part of the stack. They're perfect for the job. They are the purple people. The other quick thing to note, and this is like the most important thing and the biggest change I see at organizations, and it's the biggest indication of like whether they will be successful or not when implementing these tools. And it's to know the limits of the tech, right? If you go in expecting miracles, and if your users go in expecting miracles, you're just going to fail. And it's key to understand that we are working in a non-deterministic world, right? Before, you could write a pipeline, create a semantic layer, and as long as your user clicks revenue and clicks, show me it per week, that they're going to get the same answer as someone else. Not so much the case in the AI world, right? There might be a few things, and so you have to just re-engineer your brain to say, is 90% good enough for my organization? Is 95%? Is 99%? And you're working in this kind of like incremental gain to get closer to 100%. But you're not going to get there with the tech as it is right now, but that's okay actually. And you don't need to be at 100% to make progress in your organization, to find value in these tools. All right, here's the first of 6 steps. So, always start with your users, right? They are key here, more so than they ever have been, because the way that they interact with this tool is so varied. So start with your users, focus on a specific domain. If you're building your first kind of AI agent or AI product, focus on a specific domain, right? Go to marketing, go to finance, go to sales. Don't try and do everything at once, right? Start small. You want to understand the questions that your users are asking or want to ask here. Now, you'll probably have an intuition of what the finance team want to ask or what the marketing team want to ask, but sit down with them and ask them, what would you ask a tool if it exists? And these questions are really important because you're going to use them to understand the performance of your AI models in a kind of tight build, measure, learn cycle a bit later on. Next, you want to build your technical foundations, right? So you need a semantic layer. If you don't already have one, you're going to have to invest. The better it's defined, the easier this is all going to be, and it's going to run smoother. So you probably already have a table somewhere which has marketing data in it. Building a semantic layer on top of that, it's not a massive job. And again, we're keeping this small, right? So we're just looking, I'm going to pick on marketing, we're just focusing on the marketing domain right now. I can build a semantic layer, a simple semantic layer for the marketing domain fairly quickly. And again, in Lightdash we use dbt, so you're just writing some YAML config. I wouldn't go and decide that you need to re-architect the underlying data, right? Maybe you've got big wide tables, maybe you've defined some joins. We find that no matter what your preference is for architecture, you can get good performance. So don't try and rebuild everything before you've kind of just stuck on a semantic layer and tried to get some answers. we also, like, the decision to build Lightdash on DBT, it looks really smart now that DBT is like this huge thing, and also that our semantic layer just happens to have all of the metadata from all the DBT descriptions you've written and everything in there. So that's a nice little bonus from Lightdash, but that is to say that this metadata that you write, so the descriptions that you've written in DBT, the tests that you've written, is super important all of a sudden, right? It was important before, but sometimes you're writing descriptions thinking, is anyone ever going to read these? Well, now they are. The AI is going to read that description. It is no longer in vain to document 100% of your project, and you should aim for that, right? 100% coverage of your project. Step 3. This is the easy part. You create an AI agent. Now, a lot of BI tools right now, like you'll have a different flow depending on what's going on here, but generally, you'll have some AI that you're going to point at your new semantic model. Again, we come back to trying to keep things fairly specific here. So when you create agents in Lightdash, you create them for a specific set of models or domains. So I might have a marketing agent, I might have a finance agent, I might have a sales agent. What I don't want to do is chuck my entire DBT project at an AI and then expect great answers. Really, we want to be a bit more specific on the context we're feeding into these AI agents. And we've seen companies have a lot of success making sure that, that's how they architect things. Again, using semantics, the agent here is, it's not writing text to SQL like a human would do and click through a self-serve interface. It's choosing the building blocks from the semantic layer, and the semantic engine's building the SQL. So AI is not writing any SQL here, right? It's understanding a semantic layer just as your users do at the minute, and then creating a query. And that's also really nice because all your governance holds true. So if I have a user who's querying my marketing agent, and at the user level they don't have access to PII, then the agent also doesn't have access to PII, right, based on that user. So we get all that nice governance and everything just baked in. Also, when you build agents like this, you can give it some additional kind of like overall context. So we might have the context in our DBT project, but when we build a marketing agent, we could also, for example, tell it some things about marketing at our organization. Right? We can literally have a free text field, and we can even give it like a vibe. We could tell it to be optimistic. We could tell it to be pessimistic if we wanted to. But we can adjust things like at the top level there as well. And again, that's an advantage of having separate agents for each of your kind of domains. And I would have loved to show you a demo of our AI doing this really, really effectively. But again, I have some IT problems here, but please come down to the Lightdash booth to check that out. There's some cool stuff going on. Step 4, time to refine it. And this is a bit of a step change in how analytics engineers might have worked in the past, in my opinion. So one of the lovely things about working with these AI models is they're kind of like people in that they are a bit hard to understand, but they can give you feedback immediately, right? So previously, you might have been working with someone and you build a dashboard and you go to the user and you say, what do you think about this dashboard? And they say, well, I need something slightly different. You take it back, you work on it, you go back to them, you find a time in their diary and you say, what do you think about this dashboard? And they say, a little change, and you go back if it takes a long time, right? With these models, they come back to us immediately. They're the best stakeholders you've ever had, right? So when you're refining your agent here, you take all the questions that you gathered in step 1, and you see how the agent fares, right? So you start feeding those questions in, get the outputs, and you'll understand, like, is it building the correct semantic queries? Is it building the same semantic queries I would? And as you face problems, you then need to use your newfound kind of knowledge of how these AI systems really work, and you'll get that just from feeling it as you kind of work through more and more of creating these agents. And you're going to need to like think about, okay, how can I change the context that I'm giving the model? Maybe I need to change the underlying model to make something more or less obvious. Maybe I need to give context just to a specific column. Maybe I need to instruct the agent on specific business acronyms. Right, but this build, measure, learn cycle is rapid, very, very quick. Step 5, so you're happy internally that your AI agent is working pretty well. The next thing to do is give it to your users. And this is really key because as soon as you give this kind of thing to your users, what you don't want to do is just have a split between like, okay, I did my job, now my users are using it, I'll see how they get on, right? Don't just leave them to it, coach them, and this is really make or break, right? These AI agents, if your first experience is bad, immediately like you can be a bit suspicious. If your first experience is good, maybe you'll go on and you'll start to trust it more, but you really want to avoid people using this thing once, deciding it didn't give the correct answer, and then not using it again. So yeah, some users, they'll get it straight away. Others will need a hand. Sit down with them, work through their questions, see what, they're gonna come up with a bunch of questions you never thought of. See what they do, see how the AI responds. Give them advice on how they should prompt things. One quick tip is that they should ask small questions. So you should ask small questions of these AI agents, and then follow up. Right, so it's like a multi-step process. Don't start with a big, massive request. You'll get better results with small questions. And the last thing here, which feeds into a section later, is teach them about the importance of feedback. Right? So, as humans, feedback's really important. Sometimes we take it on board, sometimes we don't, but we probably don't get enough of it. AIs, it's unbelievably more important, right? You need to understand, are users happy with an answer that an agent has provided? And so in most BI tools that are doing this cool AI stuff, there'll usually be an option to give feedback immediately during the response from the question. Train your users to hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Even just that helps you decide like on the performance of your model, and it helps you understand if you make changes, did it improve or not. So gather metadata about how your users are feeling about your agents. You can also, there's I think some really cool stuff happening in this space at the minute about like these kind of self-improving agents. But when you're starting out, get the feedback, look at the chat logs as well. So go and see what are people asking, what are the kind of questions that they're getting back. So you built your AI agent, you've given it to your users, you've coached them through, so you can just sit back and chill. No, you can't, right? You got to repeat the process. So you've got one domain up and running right now, and when I say repeat, you're repeating not only to different domains, so take what you've learned, go to the sales team, but also this kind of build, measure, learn cycle is wider than that for each domain as well. So again, it comes back to that non-deterministic side of things. There's always improvement to be made with your AI models. You're not going to get to 100% correct, but don't settle just on like the first or the second iteration. Keep going back till you get to a point where you're happy and your users are happy. Yeah, you'll also find in your organization, it's the same with self-serve analytics, you will have people who are like power users of the tool. Just go and speak to them, understand. They will start to understand your AI agents better than you. They'll understand what the vibe is, and they're invaluable to speak to. And if people are struggling, just reach out to them. This is the people side of analytics engineering where we really are strong there. And also, when you do create stuff and you do update things, tell your org, right? Because an incremental update to a AI model, you might not feel like you want to go and shout about that rather than like building some new semantic query or semantic layer or something like that. But tell your users, hey, we're measuring this and it's better. So the ambitious members of the audience are probably thinking like, how can I automate this? And if you have a strong feedback culture from your users, you can really start to do that now. I think there's some really cool tools that I've seen that are incorporating this, and you can feed that back in automatically. Things like, when you merge a PR, you should have evaluation checks against your AI models to check for regression. So those questions that you got from your users, put those in your CI pipelines and test that, the outputs that you're getting from those are what you expect. All right? And so you should be always checking AI performance in that way. We have just, at Lightdash, we've just started implementing this idea of like a self-healing semantic layer. So if a user does get an incorrect answer, they can tell the agent, and the agent will then learn that, keep it in memory, and offer a pull request to analytics engineers to say, hey, I think we could update this. So that's kind of interesting. I think that's where you will see like a lot of improvement is like how these AI tools can kind of self-improve. And we, the world's your oyster on this. I'm super interested to see what people do here. I think it's a really interesting place to like really flex your technical ability and figure out how to automatically update these models. Okay, so I just have a few minutes left. So here's the 6 steps you should take. So always start with your users. Go and talk to people. They're probably doing this behind your back in ChatGPT. Build your technical foundations. You need a semantic layer, and then focus on a specific business domain at first. Create your AI agent, refine it using those purple people skills and that rapid build, measure, learn kind of product life cycle. And then give the tools to your users, spend time coaching them through, and encourage that kind of culture of feedback. And then finally, repeat, back to step 1. So I don't think analytics engineers are quite extinct yet. I think you're going to need to pivot in the way that you see things. Again, I think the big thing there is like this deterministic to non-deterministic. But there's this massive opportunity for people with our skill set to be the bridge between your data and the business in this AI era. It's a huge opportunity for analytics engineers, and that's super exciting as someone who's an advocate there. So maybe analytics intelligence engineering could be your next job title. I think great analytics engineers, they currently help organizations build like well-documented, governed transformation layer, a semantic layer, and create users who self-serve. And that leap to the next generation of intelligence, if you have all that in place, it isn't that big. You just got to choose the right tools and have the right kind of mentality. So, if you want to see more about how Lightdash is enabling these new workflows, which I wasn't able to show you, so please come by the booth. Come visit booth K41. We've got hot sauce as well there, if that helps. It's going fast. So thanks very much.